We are related. Sorry.
Welcome to the Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. Thank you so much for giving us a chance to inform you and enlighten you and hopefully stimulate some conversation. And today's guest will do that for us. We are proud to have legendary Suz Montgomery in the studio with us. Suz is going to let us know a little bit about her background. If you're not familiar with who Suz is, and that might mean you were living under a rock a little bit, but that's okay. We'll forgive you for that. And then we're going to go into some of the issues for the election, which we're taping this on Monday, and the election is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So if you didn't register to vote, too late, because the deadline is today at 5 o'clock. So
You're out of luck.
yeah. Suz, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me. This is a hoot, getting to hang out with somebody I really like and being on the other side of the camera, which is even better.
Yeah. Now, Suz is known for her Schmooze with Suz program, which
Correct.
is on the TDC.
TDC.
And it's
Well,
broadcast.
actually, TDC is my parent company, the production company,
Okay.
which is a division of Ventura Unified School District. But we are shown and broadcast in just about any neighborhood. If you guys want to see us, all you have to do is ask your local cable provider and you get the show, which is pretty cool, actually.
So you're telling me that if you have Time Warner or Cox or
Yeah, if you want it, you get it.
AT&T?
Yeah,
Really?
all you have to do is ask.
Okay, so is it a different channel per carrier?
Yes, every
Okay.
community has a different public access station.
Okay.
For example, here in the City of Ventura, we are on 15.6, which are both caps, but we're on 15 because it's the educational station, which
Okay.
shows city council events and planning commission and that type of thing. Plus, we're educational because of the TDC affiliation, so we are on 15 instead of 6. We used to be on 6 for years. I mean, we've been doing the show 29 years, longer than I would like to say that we've been doing the show, but a long, long time.
Schmooze with Suz, 29 years?
Yeah, and I don't
Wow.
even look that old. Yeah, but I am. Trust me. Underneath this dyed hair is gray. Indeed it is. It's that old. It's really that old.
So tell us about your background.
Okay.
Where you were raised, where you were born.
Well, I
where-
was born in Chicago under the Daily Machine, since we're talking politics today. Parents were one of each. I had my dad was
You had one of each parent?
one of each. Not gender, folks, but I had parents. My dad was a Republican and my mom was a Democrat. So we had great fights in the home, but growing up in an Italian Catholic family, they never fought in front of the kids. So we went to the bedroom, the door was closed, but we heard them and they were great. So they were always arguing over candidates, for example, the Truman thing and then the Eisenhower thing, and my mom, she loved Stevenson. So we heard this as children. And then as we got older, we moved to California. My dad died when I was 8 years old. My mother, 2 years later, married my stepfather, who also raised me. And he was a director of public works for the city of Los Angeles, which was a political job, even though it was like civil service, but it was a political job. And he wanted to make sure that we understood politics. And so every day when we got home from school that night at dinner, we had to know the question, or the answer to the question, which was, who got elected or what bills passed the House today, which was like, we had to do extra work besides doing our homework. But it was actually good training for us kids to be in the real world, because you don't get much in the way of civics or government unless you're like a senior in high school today. Kids don't really know unless you watch TV, but I was the age of, because I'm between 60 and death. So we didn't have TV until I was older, when I was a kid. So we listened to the radio. Boy, I really sound old today, don't I? But we had radio, and then we had the TV later on, which was all black and white, big TV set with a little teeny green screen. But I remember this as a child, and then my dad, after he asked us what bills passed, we had to know all the specifics. So consequently, that was a good way to grow up. And
But I want to take a
jump in.
side note about that. When your dad passed away when you were 8, and how
Correct.
many siblings and where were you in the family?
I was the only.
You were an only
I was
child?
the only child.
Okay, so when your mom remarried,
She had three of my 3 half-brothers, which we call brothers, and we don't denote any differences in our family. They're my 3 brothers.
and where did you fit within the 3,
I
age-wise?
was the eldest child because
Okay.
they were born of my mom's second marriage to my stepfather.
Oh,
So I was,
your dad didn't bring them, their stepdad
No.
didn't bring them into the marriage.
No,
Your
they
stepdad
were-
and mom had them.
Had them.
No
So
wonder.
we had another
you were born
family altogether.
with them.
So I was older. I was the eldest by 10 years. Then my brother Mike, who was 10 years younger than I.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Pat, 12 years, and then my brother Tim, 20 years younger than myself. So I was gone, literally gone when Tim was around. And Tim's only 2 years, 22 months older than my daughter. So everybody's, they were all in the same playpen. Just throw the kids in there and let them go for it, which was the mentality of the time. And we had those, remember those playpens?
Mm-hmm.
They had the big bars. The bars.
Yes.
The kids
And
used
the
to get their head,
plastic on the
the
top.
plastic, and the kids got their heads stuck in the bars. It was great entertainment for me, but my mother didn't see it that way.
So,
But
but
anyway.
tell me, for your mother to be a single mother, now she didn't have the stigma of being divorced, but she still was the single woman.
She was.
What was
She
that like back then? Because that wasn't the norm, and the fact that he took on a woman with a child was fairly unusual,
Yeah, it was
wasn't
unusual at the time. When you think back about it, I never really gave it much thought, but I guess it must have been because we were the only mother-child single family on our block when I grew up in the San
I would
Fernando
imagine.
Valley.
Where?
But where did I grow up? Sherman Oaks.
Because I was raised in Northridge.
There you go.
Valley
neighbors,
girl.
neighbors again.
For
Yeah,
sure, for
Valley
sure.
girls. And then Catholic school. Hey,
Yes,
12 years of
exactly.
Catholic school. Definitely. Yeah, I'm another veteran.
Uh-huh.
But it was
But-
an interesting way growing up.
Also, not to interrupt, but I
Yeah.
did.
We could do two days of shows here.
When your dad was quizzing you about civics, it was
Yes.
really you, because
Correct.
your sibs were way too young to engage
But
until
I was
you
still
got
at
into
home
high
when they got a
school.
little bit older.
Yeah, but still.
And still, they
It
were.
was
I
about
was still.
Suz, educating
Yeah, I
Suz.
had to learn.
Which means that he really was an angel, that man.
In some ways,
Well, I mean,
yes.
obviously he was a
Yeah.
human being, and he was
Yeah,
imperfect
exactly.
and flawed, as
Like
we
we all
are.
are.
Right.
I'll finish too. But it was absolutely true. He did teach me about those things that were important, such as how does government work. In fact, he got me a job when I was 14, working for a congressman. Now, I had no idea what a congressman was other than what I learned when I studied, government when I was a kid, when he made me do this. And then also a little bit in school because we didn't teach it then. And I went to work for a congressman. It was actually the 53rd district. It was Jim Corman. And Jim Corman was fascinating. He was a Democrat, and I was a file clerk. All I did was file papers, but I was one of those nosy kids that wanted to hear what was going on, so I was listening to what the conversation was. And I learned a lot about just Congress. I learned about the federal government even more. So I had really in-house training and actually got seduced by the whole idea of politics, which is one of my passions. I mean, I love it.
And your stepdad lived long enough to see you.
No, he actually he hasn't seen me in this to this degree. He died in let's see, both my mom and my stepfather died in 1990, where I was just starting to get really really starting to cut my teeth on my own little career in politics. So he really didn't get a chance to see that. And it's kind of interesting because my three sibs, which are my three brothers, are not engaged in process like I am. And I call it process because I'm not really a Republican nor a Democrat. I'm in that weird anomaly, which is, and I'm not independent. I don't steal votes. But I really believe that someday we will have a third party. So I'm considered probably a moderate, but I have fiscal leanings that are conservative, so that way it would be almost like the Republican stance. Mm-hmm. But I'm also socially aware and concerned about social issues for people. So then I'm leaning over to the left on that one, which is, like the, Democratic thing.
Right.
So I'm kind of a strange duck. I don't fit. And
I always say that in my party, I'm as far to the left as possible. I'm not even in the tent, but I'm holding that.
You're holding
the rope,
Good for you.
keeping that roof up over them.
And don't you think this is more really where we should be as a nation now, because it's so divisive? I think the really intellectual place to be in politics today is somewhere in the middle. Because frankly, I'm tired of both sides throwing rocks at each other, and it's getting me irritated.
Right.
So
and
maybe
everyone
it should.
gets bruised in the process.
Yeah.
There's
it's
real
not
winner. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're losing our country because we all want our way.
Right.
Knock it off.
Right.
Knock it off. No, sorry.
We're visiting with Suz Montgomery. And Suz, did you start your career 29 years ago with the TDC and the
No, I
Unified
did
School
not. It was
District?
actually, it was back with Johnny George. If you're old enough to remember this, it was Avenue TV Cable Company. He heard that I did some broadcast stuff, many years before. And he called me and he says, would you like to do a little small show here in Ventura about, interview some people in the community that are doing good works, or maybe something that, good, feel-good pieces, puff pieces. And I said, sure, okay. And it just kind of launched, and it was really, really nice for a long time, and we were very well behaved. And then as politics started creeping back in my life, I started getting a little bit irritated, and then I would bring maybe an issue forward, because to me, it's all about the issues. It's not about the parties. It's all about the issues. And if we can get back to focus, that's what it should be. But who knows if we're going to be able to do that. So when we started doing the show with the issues driven, and I think it really worked really well. People were interested as long as I didn't spout off and give my opinions too often, which I am wont to do occasionally. So it just happened to be that way. It's kind of weird. And then with the whole economy tanking, of, when it started about 9 years ago with the, GW the second, I just thought, wow, I've got to say something. So my often quoted phrase of, don't use the American flag as an earmuff and a gag. I hear it often, and it's really true because I'm just as patriotic as everybody and yourself. But we just want peace. We just want the economy to rebound. We just want to get back to where we were. God knows if we can, I hope.
Well, and obviously we have a choice to make that we're going to be asked to make on November 2nd. So we're visiting with Suz Montgomery. When we come back, Suz is going to help us find out if you don't have an opinion and you don't know why you don't have an opinion, or you don't want to just listen to what other people are saying to you, Suz is going to share with us how you can get the information for yourself so you can make your own decision and make your vote really resound within yourself, not just because that's what everybody
And try to
else
stay
is doing.
apolitical.
Yes, that's what she's going to try and do. You're watching the Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. We will be right back.
God, I look like I'm pregnant, too.
No, you do not.
Is that the trip?
Welcome back to the Maria Sanchez Show, and thank you for watching KADYTV.com. To present the information as we can do in the best possible light, we're endeavoring to give you knowledge, which is power, which will inform your decisions. And our goal is to do it in an objective, unbiased, nonpartisan way so that you can take the facts, you can get to the websites, and you can make your own decision. And frankly, I have my opinion, and I know Suz has her opinion. Suz Montgomery is our guest today, Schmooze with Suz. You can see on channel 15. And if you ask for your cable provider, they will share it with you as well. But Suz, answer us this question. If somebody doesn't know, which there's nothing wrong with not knowing.
True.
In fact, asking for knowledge is
that's power.
better.
Yeah.
How do you get to the root of finding out in terms of propositions and in terms of ballot measures and in terms of course, candidates?
Well, what we do, and I teach adult education with the city of, the school district here, Ventura Unified School District, and in the adult education classes, I do, every voting cycle, I do over 100 hours worth of research for my classes, so you're going to get some of my class here. And what I try to do is I try to give a totally objective, nonpartisan way of looking for information or talking with people. And I suggest that my students, because we do numerous classes, about 6 weeks of classes on how to read a ballot, which is very confusing. If you have not read your ballot or your sample ballot, here's the big guy. This is for the state. And then we have one here that you also get in the mail. And this has got more to do with local issues or local candidates and different races. And I suggest that there's numerous sources that you can use at home. Now, a lot of people don't have the internet. I understand that. So if you don't have the internet, which is one of my best resource tools of all, you can actually probably start, watch a show like Maria's because she gives good information out. Watch something on TV. Don't watch just one perspective. I would say probably watch both the left and the right, both, to get a good perspective of what their views are, because you're going to get totally different opinions and totally different viewpoints. So you get a better idea and a better balanced way of making a decision when you read or watch both. Also, newspapers, if you can find one that's still being printed, find a newspaper. And a lot of times, like our local, which is our Ventura County Star, they do have in their op-ed section, they synopsize all the different issues, the propositions, the candidates, and they endorse also. Just use that as a guideline. Don't use that exactly the way they publish it. You know, or worst case, go talk to your neighbors. And if you don't know your neighbors, you should know your neighbors. Talk to people that you know, that you respect.
But in all fairness, most people who are seeing this do get the internet, because we are
Good.
internet television. So
Correct.
with that in
Perfect.
mind,
You
I
have
know
sites?
you have, yes, you have because we spoken earlier, you have
Correct.
some favorites. Now,
I
they're
do.
your favorites because you find them to be not only informative but objective, or?
True,
Okay,
both.
good, all right.
And that's what I have to do in order to be able to teach a class. I have to be more or less apolitical. In other words, not take a political stance, because as a school teacher, I can't influence, and I should not influence.
I
Even
agree
though I
with
have
that.
my own opinions, and
Right.
so do you, but it's not fair for me to do that to a classroom of people. Now, you have to understand, my classroom votes. I'm not a typical classroom. I'm not your K-12. My average age student is 90 years old.
No, your average?
Average age student is 90 years old.
Which is-
They vote, God bless them, they respect the process.
Good.
And this is what I ask you to do, respect the process. You can agree to disagree, like my mother said, but still be friends.
Right.
Okay? So you don't let a friendship be broken over a political issue or a candidate. So some of the places that I look for information is the League of Women Voters. That's a local group, and they're national, by the way. And go to their website, and League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. It is, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters as well here in town. But I would say go to the League of Women Voters. They do not endorse any political candidates. They would stay neutral. But they do endorse and give opinions, and they give both sides of the issue on propositions and initiatives, which I think is fair. So you get a good overall view of how they would, you know, how they do this. And they do interview the people that are involved in the process as well. They interview the candidates. They interview the people that are representing the different issues and propositions. So look at that as well. That's one place I look. I also look at a couple other places that I found recently that I like. CaliforniaForward.org. It is not a progressive movement as it says it is.
Right, it sounds
It's pretty nonpartisan. And the other one that is really the best fun of all, I love this one, followthemoney.org. Oh boy, are these people dirty. You want dirt, this reads better than the National Enquirer. I found out people that are getting money, meaning candidates, from the most unlikely sources.
They publish names?
They publish names.
Donors' names and amount of
Oh yeah,
donation?
oh yeah.
Really?
That's another one. They get real specific with the Huffington Post, which is left-leaning. But here, I've got 24 pages of the Huffington Post, which gives me a view of everybody in your town that gives a significant amount of money to either candidate, either party. And they publish their names. I know these people personally, and I'm looking at this and I go, oh my God, they gave that person money? Oh my God, what are they thinking? And then I'm thinking to myself, well, I can't really go up to them and tell them how I found out. It's probably not cool, right?
Well,
but I did find it.
Did it not used to be public information?
It has to be public. Only within recent years, we have Public Information Act where they have to disclose. For
Right.
example, if you go to City Hall like I am tonight, if there's something you want to know about somebody, and I mean, Bell, California, if you've been reading the paper, has been a debacle. It's been a nightmare. But it did bring something forward. We need to know how much money these people are that are working on our behalf, are working at City Hall, are working in government. How much money do they make? How much of our tax money goes to their salary, and what are they doing with this money? I mean, ask questions, ask tough questions. We do in our class. I invite the public in. You got to come in and see our class on Thursdays. We have a range of people coming in, and they're politicians. We've had everybody come in. They're practically outside of, let's see, who did not, Elton Gallagher did not respond. But other than that, we had everybody else respond and came into our classroom, both sides of the fence, which was very fun.
Are you speaking every city council member? Or
Every city council election in the city of Ventura,
Okay.
I hold one of the public forums, a council forum, every voting cycle. So every 4 years we do this public forum. It's open to the public, it's free, and you get to ask them, the candidates that are running for office, questions. And you can do it from the floor. It's great. Plus, I have a ballot box, which I let my residents put in their questions, and we ask questions. Although some of them get discounted, such as like, we don't like the food, or we want more, we want more movies. You know, that we have to discredit those. But most of the time, it's kind of fun because they really do ask tough questions. That's the generation, your mom's and dad's generation, and my parents' generation, that built this country, that makes it what it is, which makes it's a wonderful place to live. And we have these wonderful advantages thanks to people that ask these tough questions. And so, you know, just don't sit on your butt. Don't, you know, but do this kind of research on your own. I mean, I looked at the Easy Voter Guide, which is a great resource, by the way. And this is published by also by the League of Women Voters.
Tell me, though, in
Yeah.
terms of what's going on in the county, how, not just the city, but because there's 10 cities, obviously, in our county.
Correct.
And if you get somebody in one city that doesn't agree, or the city council doesn't agree about how to do business in the other city, there's an impasse there, right?
Yes, there is.
So how, you might be electing the right person, but if the machine doesn't allow for harmony, then we've got 10 fiefdoms.
Exactly, and that's the way it does turn out, too. But, you know, when you vote for these people, you have to do your own due diligence and your research, for example. So we can get rid of that kind of a mentality. You owe it to yourself and to the people that you reside in the same town to educate yourself. So we don't have this kind of small mentality, this little microscopic or maybe, you know, macro looking at the issues or the candidates. You owe it to yourself to educate yourself.
Now, one of the, and I can't speak to this because I haven't been involved in broadcasting for 2 years. I used to keep track of how many folks were registered to vote in the county,
Correct.
and of those, how many actually voted. And it's a sad number.
Well, we can actually break that down to a very small local level here in the City of Ventura. In the City of Ventura, we have approximately 65,000 people vote, just round numbers. Vote that are registered, pardon me. And out of that, we get between 23 and on a bad year, up to 27% of that number actually vote, which means they're not engaged in process.
Right.
And it's all about the process. You know, and when people say to me, well, I don't want to, you know, this is the one that really gripes me. Okay, he's been in office 36 years. He's an incumbent. He must be doing a great job. I'm going to vote for him.
Or this cycle,
yes,
throw the bums out.
Exactly.
Because they're not making it happen.
Thank God for Bell, California. Okay, here we go again.
So
But
we're
they
going to
have
take a quick break.
Yeah.
And when we get back, I want to touch on a little bit about Proposition H.
Oh, absolutely. Local.
Which is local. And then to discuss a little bit further about why there is such apathy. Because if 25% of those that are registered vote, and of those that are registered, how much that represents the county, that's actually embarrassingly low. And I maybe we can make a difference in these next 2 years to make, because the people who are elected should be elected by the people, not by a fringe amount of the people.
Correct.
We're in studio with Suz Montgomery, Schmooze with Suz. You can catch every week.
Yep, Thursday, Sunday nights, 8 o'clock.
And we will be right back, and don't you go anywhere. Welcome back to the Maria Sanchez Show. While we continue our conversation with local, what do we call you? Reina, Suz Montgomery, Schmooze with Suz. And we're speaking about the how to inform yourself about the best way to make your vote, but also first and foremost, whether you're registered to vote or not. And then if you are, whether or not you do vote. And of course, we are encouraging everyone to get registered and everyone to vote. And Suz, before we go any further, let's talk about Proposition H.
Proposition H, which is in Ventura, the city of Ventura exclusively. And Proposition H is really interesting. It's going, basically they're trying to raise about $4.5 million with this proposition. And what it's doing is funding where the state of California has been stealing the education money from all different areas, which if you keep up with the news, you'll see this. Well, the city of Ventura and Ventura Unified School District is just one of those, for example. And by doing Measure H, the proponents for it say that they're going to be getting some funding, which is this 4.5 for K through 8 programs. And they want to be able to bring some art programs back and some technology and actually some core resources as well. Now the opponents, I haven't heard anybody say they're not voting for it because it really is that good. It's solid. But we need a 2/3 vote. And the best part is if you're over 65, you're not going to be assessed this because it is a parcel tax. And so you'll be able to vote for it, of course, but you will not be assessed that money.
So does it only affect landowners?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So if you have
homeowners.
yes, homeowners, or if you property owners.
Right. Okay.
So if you have a business and if you have a home, then it's probably 2 parcels. In fact, it is. So it's pretty specific.
Okay.
So but I think it really is a good idea, and I think the district has really gotten out there and really gotten the message out to the community. So I think it looks pretty good, but I don't ever rest on my laurels until the last vote is counted.
Well, and 2/3 is a lot.
2/3
It's not a simple
Well,
majority.
if it has to be 2/3 because anything that is a fee, like a tax or anything, has to be 2/3 by
Okay.
state law. That's the way it's written, and it's very specific to that. So it's going to be a tough one to pass, but I think people realize the value of education, and but it's not going to affect my population at all because I'm adult education. It's K-12, so that's where the money's going.
And then let's go back to an issue that we spoke of in the last segment. Why do you suppose there's such apathy with people getting involved? Let's talk at basics, registering to vote.
Well, I think, frankly, it's the political climate we live in today. I think that a lot of it is there's multiple levels of this. But I think one is that people are, right now, I see anger in America. People are really disenchanted with the whole government system.
But more
and the
reason
feds.
to get involved, don't you think?
That's what I would do, and so would you, because
Yeah.
we're responsible people, and that does not belong to a political party. But I think what it is people, the apathetic nature of people is, well, my one vote doesn't count. But if you keep saying that one vote multiplies if you are... In other words, get off the couch and do something about it. Educate yourself like we started at the beginning of your show.
Well, and I have to admit, I don't always know everything about the propositions or the candidates.
They're convoluted.
Sometimes judges say, or even the nonpartisan ones, and I think to myself, okay, because I don't know, I'm not going to vote. In other words, I'm there to vote, but I don't necessarily vote on everything because
Do you do homework?
Well, sometimes I don't, obviously.
Okay. I think you owe it to yourself to at least have a working knowledge of how this works by getting the knowledge. You can probably go through now this is the only representation we have, which is these sample ballots. And unfortunately, these things are so twisted, it's hard to understand because what is yes means no, and what is no
Sometimes,
means
right.
yes. And you look at this thing and you go, I thought I understood it, but I really don't. That's when you talk to people or people that you respect their opinion. What do you know about this thing? How are you going to vote about this? And then you start doing a little bit of a survey. Just eat coffee in the morning or something. Find people that know what's going on or people you respect their opinion.
But what I'm trying to share with the viewers is, if you're not an expert, that's okay. No one expects
fine.
that. And so whatever you're comfortable voting on, go ahead and
Absolutely.
at least go and vote. And then
Absolutely.
you're abstaining from the other things, but that's okay too.
Well, the worst thing is if you don't vote
Right.
because you're apathetic or you just
Right.
feel embarrassed because you don't know.
Right.
There's nothing wrong. You and I don't know everything. I mean, we do our homework. I don't know. I teach school and I don't know everything. I don't profess to. But at least I do. I'll take the initiative to go find out. And I mean, it takes this amount of effort. But talk to
Especially
people.
with the absentee ballots.
Yeah, they
and
make it so easy.
I know, and you can check off a thing that says that I'm going to vote forever
Forever,
absentee.
you can have an
and it
absentee
comes-
forever.
Yeah. And
There's no
so
excuse.
It really isn't, and I guess that's what troubles me more is that we all have an opinion and we all matter. In fact,
Yep.
my personal adage is one voice, one vote, one paycheck.
Absolutely.
What you say, where you spend your money, and what you do
True.
adds up.
And people died to give you this privilege,
Right.
and you take it responsibly. We had our early forefathers die to give you this privilege. If you ever did the research on the signers of these documents, you would be horrified to find how they ended up. Most of them died to give us that privilege. So why? Because we do have that privilege. Because
Right.
they gave
It
their
is a
lives,
privilege.
because they believed in the process.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Right.
It's sad that they had to die that way. I feel bad about it, but you know what? They made us free. And get off your butt, get off your couch, and go vote.
Right, right. Whatever you vote.
I don't have any respect for you if you don't.
And I do want to say as an aside, my
Yes,
dad was
dear.
the Republican, my mother was the Democrat. She voted Republican so often that she started getting Republican associate
Oh, my
literature.
gosh.
But they used to go to the polls and my mom would say, well, we're going to cancel each other's vote out.
And that's what they did.
But they did, yes. But nevertheless, they
did
both
the
voted.
process.
Right. And
That's fine.
they actually showed us how you can cohabitate like your family
Yeah.
with differences of
Go to the
opinion.
kitchen, shut the kids' doors.
Well, and actually, I've been married to men that haven't agreed with me politically, and I used to
Oh, yeah,
always
I've
say,
had that.
let's just agree to disagree.
And still be friends,
Right.
or still talk to each other.
Right.
Be
and
respectful.
Create harmony.
And don't start any fights at the polls. That's when we're not advocating that. We
At
can
all.
at home. We're bad.
So, Suz Montgomery is our guest. She is just, you are royalty in
Thank
the
you
city
for-
of Ventura.
Oh, no,
and,
I'm not. I'm just a
yes,
small fly.
No, and it's lovely to have you.
Thank
and
you,
I want to
honey.
make sure that everybody understands that if they didn't have access to your program, it's because they didn't ask to. So
That's true.
So
You
even
can get it. Well, also CAPS also has it on the internet. You can go to capstv.org, and all our shows are on there. So
Okay.
you can go look at it on the internet.
So, and and she has a wildly diverse,
Oh, boy, do
eclectic group of
Nice
guests.
way of saying you got a lot of interesting people.
Yes. So thank you so much for watching the Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. We appreciate your eyes. Please, if you did register vote, please, you know what, surprise us. 25 to 27% being the best
Yeah.
case scenario.
Do
That's
better.
sad. Yeah, let's make a difference. Let's make it happen. And thank you for watching KADYTV.com.